The August 26, 2025 meeting of the Dexter Township Planning Commission will now please come to order. Just, as way of introduction and taking attendance, ensuring we have a quorum, which we certainly do tonight. I am Marty Straub. To my left, your right, Sean Smith, Alicia Abbott, Steve Birch, Chandra Hurd, Dan Barry, and Christy Mayer. So we are at full strength tonight. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Conflict of interest review. Does any planning commissioner have any conflicts with any of our agenda items tonight? Seeing none, next item is approval of the agenda. Anybody want any additions, corrections, reordering of tonight's agenda? Seeing none, the agenda will stand approved as presented. Brings us to public comment. If anyone cares to address the Planning Commission, please step up to the lectern, make sure the microphone is on, and please give us your name and address for the record.
Joseph Spiegel, 7905 Sorrow, Gregory. I had submitted previously on August 12th a short memo regarding the Bennett application. The only thing I'd like to add is that it is inconsistent with the master plan. We don't know what the strategic planning is going to be arrived at by the Board of Trustees tomorrow. I don't believe that the Hamburg ordinance in any way, manner, or form is consistent with what our consultant has provided. And I would strongly urge that it be denied at this time. I'd also like to raise another issue. I submitted a memorandum concerning the potential for enforcement. Regardless of how the board decides to treat the Hamburg ordinance, there was no provision for enforcement funding. What I have provided is just a possible start of coming to some sort of understanding of what enforcement would cost purely from an economic standpoint. It's not the beginning, it's not the end, it's just a stab at arriving at some numbers. And I would strongly urge that the board consider whether it is through the Board of Trustees or this board, forming a very small working group to arrive at better numbers. It could be a member of this board, it could be a member of the Board of Trustees. Certainly it would involve Fletcher and Megan, probably an outside person. I think that issue of enforcement has been talked about, but never really addressed in a comprehensive manner, so that people can make a determination. All right, go to X number of issues, Y number of costs, how is that going to be paid for? So I would strongly urge that something be done in the way of forming at least some sort of working group to flesh out what I have provided. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see no one else, so public comment at this part of the meeting will be closed. Next item on the agenda, public hearings, of which there are none tonight, which brings us to 7 action items. Our sole action item tonight is recommendation to the Township Board to amend relevant portions of section 2.02R and Article 4, Article 7, Article 17 of the zoning ordinance to allow short-term rentals in the Lake Residential Zoning District using the short-term rental development standards in the Hamburg Township zoning ordinance as requested by Amy and Jeffrey Bennett. And just a little background on that. I don't remember at what point everybody came to this planning commission. But as you can see from the packet, back in October, this was an item before the planning commission. The Bennetts had paid their money and given us their proposal, which was essentially the Hamburg Township, that section of the Hamburg Township zoning ordinance. So not only had it been discussed quite a bit at that time, but that then became the impetus for the township board to establish the short-term rental committee, which spent months on the issue, and everybody knows the history of that over the past couple of months then. My understanding, and maybe Fletcher or Megan want to say something about this, but my understanding is since this was a petition to the township, and this is their proposed solution, we've got, pretty digital, it can be an up or a down. It's not, we're going to get into the details and modify it. That was a different event.
Yes, this is because they submitted an application, paid their fees, they need a decision by you and by the township board.
So that's why it is back here. We have to dispense with it. We owe the applicants that. That's what they paid their money for, to get the official answer from the planning commission. With that, did either of you have anything else to say to present this? I would expect that, given the hours that we have spent as a planning commission and came to a different conclusion, that we probably don't need a whole lot of discussion on this, but certainly don't want to cut anybody off.
Sure. The only thing I'll add is that the township board is going to consider the planning commission's July 22nd recommendation at the September board meeting.
All right, thank you.
PC already forwarded their thoughts, our recommendation on the matter, and we have to take action on the
And that will,
location.
I'm sorry, that will include, I think, maybe most importantly to us, the text change that defines what short-term rental is in the current zoning ordinance. Whatever else they do beyond that with ordinance 45 or something, that is a separate standalone item, that we define what it is and then specifically state, unless they take different action, that that's not covered under the township zoning ordinance. Or not allowed, let's say. Okay. All right, good. So what is the planning commission's pleasure on this item? Anybody
Mr.
ready to
Chair?
offer up? Yes, sir, Mr. Birch.
First off, I would like to commend Mr. Spiegel for his very relevant remarks regarding the cost of short-term rentals to the township, the enforcement costs to the township. Whether we permit short-term rental or we deny short-term rental, in either case, there is going to be an enforcement cost, which is probably going to be borne by the taxpayers of the township. And I can't, at this point, predict what those costs may be, other than I fully expect them to be significant, in fact, quite significant. But in our deliberations this evening, I would just like to emphasize the fact that Mr. Spiegel has also readdressed a term that we have talked around, but have not ever developed a firm proposal or suggestions to what it may be. And that's all I have for the moment.
All right, thank you. Anybody have anything else? Anybody care to offer up a motion? Motion which we have the two choices available to us in our packets.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Birch.
since you did essentially asks if anyone would care to move on this issue. I move that the planning commission forward an unfavorable recommendation to the township board for the zoning ordinance amendment application submitted by Jeffrey and Amy Bennett on August 13, 2024. The reason for this unfavorable recommendation are it would imply spot zoning. It would cause commercial businesses to be operated in our residential areas. The master plan does not support short-term rentals, and there will be a significant cost to the township for enforcement of short-term rentals.
Is there support for the motion?
I'll support it, Mayor.
So moved by Birch, supported by Mayor, that the planning commission forward an unfavorable recommendation of the township board for the zoning ordinance amendment application submitted by Jeffrey and Amy Bennett on August 13, 2024. The reasons for the unfavorable recommendation are it would constitute spot zoning. It would be commercial business operating in residential zoning. The master plan does not allow for short-term rentals. Did you have one other after that?
Yes, and the cost of the township
thank
for
you.
enforcement.
Yep, and cost to the township for enforcement. Is there any further discussion? If not, we will have a roll call vote. Commissioner Smith?
I need to make sure I'm voting the right way here. The motion is an unfavorable recommendation.
Correct.
So voting yes is supporting advancing the unfavorable recommendation.
Correct.
Yes.
Commissioner Trustee Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Birch?
Yes,
Commissioner Hurd?
Yes.
Commissioner Barry?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayor?
Yes.
And Straub votes yes, so that passes with 7 yes, no absent. That should bring us up to approval of the planning commission minutes of the July 22nd, 2025 meeting.
sir.
Oh,
May I
Discussion.
have discussion item?
Yes, you may. I scribbled too much. Of course, we have the discussion item, discussion on section 19.06F of the zoning ordinance, electronic message signs, review of static display duration requirements for messages and images. This is one that I had asked that we review. Some of you may recall we spent some time a few months back trying to allow a better sign at a particular business that was just, so happened going to be a lit sign that had the capabilities for motion. And upon driving by that business several times, I realized that it's not, at least at that point, not in compliance with the township zoning ordinance, which says that you have to hold that message static for an hour. And I was a bit disappointed because in one of those meetings, when property representative, and representatives of the sign company were here, they understood. But be that as it may, it also struck me. Now, you might ask, why do some of these things strike me after they've been enacted for years? But it also struck me that, you know what, an hour for a big fancy sign like that seems to be illogical. Now, we also have some signs in the township, and I could not speak to Fletcher, if he cares to, could speak to whether they were before the ordinance said an hour, you had to hold the display static for at least an hour. But that just doesn't seem practical. Why should somebody have a nice sign, but their message can't really, now I understand the other end of it. You don't want it to be a distraction driving down the road. There's someplace in between. And I guess at this point, I'll turn it over to Fletcher, who did the research. It's in our packet. And what do you know? Yeah, we are way outside the norm of our neighboring communities.
That is correct. I put together a small little table outlining some conditions in neighboring communities. You know, averages are sign times for messages are as little as 30 or 10 seconds all the way up to an hour, which is Dexter Township. I think we
Oh,
can
so the
come-
average is like half an hour, so we'd be
Right.
okay. huh?
Right, so I think the planning commission should consider a reasonable compromise. The reason I think this is so relevant is because there's currently 2 signs that have been out of compliance here in the township, and I've been working with the property owners to come back into compliance. And the first thing they say to me is that an hour is too much time, and that they would like to show more images in a shorter amount of time. From what I gathered, there's currently 4 existing electronic signs here in the community.
Thank
We
you.
have Wonderland Marina, Christian House of Prayer, both on McGregor. We have North Lake United Methodist Church on North Territorial, and the Portage Lake Yacht Club. Out of these 4 signs, the marina and the 2 churches have modern electronic signs that can do bright images and change frequently. The Portage Lake Yacht Club is an older style sign. It can still change messages rapidly, but it's not as I guess high tech as the other 3 signs. I recommend that the planning commission, of course, keep standards for brightness and keeping a prohibition on moving images, but reassess the time limits.
And do you have any knowledge, any background on how that cycle might tie to a speed limit? So Wonderland Marine, I think, is that a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, that section of McGregor,
I thought it was 35.
Yeah, I think so.
35?
I can take a look real quick.
I can speak to that a little bit. In one of my other client communities, Independence Township, they tied the size of the sign and the size of the characters to the speed of the road. Because of how fast you're going influences how easily you can read something.
Okay.
And so kind of the faster the road, the bigger the letters. But that community, and I double checked this today, has a 2-minute limit on electronic message signs, and it doesn't have a requirement about the size of the characters or anything in the electronic message sign. From the research I've read about signs over the years, specifically on electronic messaging signs, is that what you want to avoid is the message changing so frequently, maybe like at 30 seconds, so that it can become a nuisance to someone who's trying to read the whole thing and then going by and whatnot. 2 minutes a minute or 2 minutes seems to be something that's pretty consistent throughout communities. The 30 seconds to me seems to be a bit small in terms of a time frame, unless maybe it was a 25-mile-per-hour road. But also because you don't control the speed of the roads, since you're a township, that you may make a decision based on that road. In Independence, they also knew the roadways in terms of how wide they were. They were also looking at that. When they looked at that science and set the character size, for lack of a better word.
All right, thank you.
The speed limit is 30 miles an hour.
All right. And the church on Territorial, the speed limit there is 40. The church on McGregor, that might be up to 45 at that point. So along with what Megan was saying, yeah, 6, 8, 10 seconds seems pretty short to me. However, 10 seconds in a 30-mile-an-hour zone at Wonderland Marine might not be that big a deal. But it also sounds like, based on Megan's experience, that 1 to 2 minutes is probably about what most other units of government have settled on. And I couldn't tell you the difference between, 1 and 2 minutes. You might, at any of these locations, you might catch it while it's changing. But even at 30 miles an hour, the sight distance along McGregor, I'm going to be beyond that in a minute. So I don't think there's a real distraction factor there if we came down somewhere in that area. All right, either of you have anything else for us before we jump into it?
I'd just like to say that I think these businesses and institutions spend a lot of money on their electronic signs, and I think the hour requirement currently defeats the entire purpose of the electronic messaging. So
Yep, absolutely, you're right.
I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurd.
You know, when I first read through this, it took me back to the 80s and 90s when the first digital sign in Chelsea came up and it showed the date, the time, and the temperature.
Temperature was always wrong.
But we always knew the date, and the car said the time, but back then the cars didn't typically say the temperature. So I was always waiting for the temperature to show up, and it was on a 5 or 6 second cycle, but it forced me to be distracted for at least 15 seconds,
Wow,
waiting
yeah.
for that temperature to show up. And I understand these signs, there's only a few existing now, but we are setting an ordinance for possible future signs that could be with a much greater sight distance. So do I think an hour is much too, long for minimum? Of course. But anything under 30 seconds, you do allow a commercial or a church or anyone with this type of sign to say, come join us. 10 seconds go by on, and then a date. And then it makes you wait and stare and like, what are they going to say? What are they going to say next? And it becomes a safety issue. It is distracting you. It's distracting you. And so, I mean, I'm okay with the 30 seconds to a minute, because I think within 30 seconds, you might catch a second frame, but you're not going to catch a third. And you're not going to be overly distracted by one change of a sign in 30 seconds, even if you're catching it on the 25th second of the first lapse. So I'm okay with the 30 seconds to a minute, but anything shorter than 30 seconds, I think allows for it to change too quickly and be distracting on these roads that are already distracting enough.
Thank you. Mr. Birch?
Yes, my biggest problem with the electronic signs is that we cannot legislate how far away from in my line of sight that the sign changes. Particularly, I'm referring to many of them on 75 when I drive back and forth up to the business up north. In other words, what I'm trying to say is I just get the information down, and then all of a sudden the sign changes, and now I want to investigate what the new information is. So having said that, I would be full support of Ms. Hurd's suggestion of 30 seconds to a minute for duration, because I think in the vast majority of circumstances, I am going to see that 1 minute or 30-second sign, and I'm not going to concern myself too much with what just popped up as I drive by.
Commissioner Smith?
I just had a question, and I was wondering, for staff, whether or not you had input or feedback from any of the people that have signs for how long they would like. What are they asking for?
Or kind of tag on to that, do you have data on how long some of them are cycling right now.
I did reach out to Christian House of Prayer and Wonderland Marina and asked them what they thought would be reasonable for their operations. Because I wanted their input, to give to you guys. I have yet to hear back, but I will follow up. With Wonderland Marina, they've complied with the ordinance. They're sitting at an hour between messages currently. The Christian House of Prayer, I would say on average, 3 seconds between messages. It's pretty rapid. And I've asked them to comply with current standards, and they have yet to do so, but I will, of course, keep following up and take proper enforcement measures.
Any idea what Wonderland was before they changed? This is not for sure, but I'm kind of thinking the first couple times I noticed it, seemed like maybe it was 10 seconds. I did pull over one time and just make sure that every time I drove by, I wasn't catching it, that instant that it changed, but it was on the order of seconds, as I recall.
I would say that would be pretty close. Wonderland Marina was very amenable to what I asked. I stopped by, met the manager in person, and he agreed to adhere to the hour standard, and asked if we could maybe reconsider the.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. The reason I was asking was I'm just trying to understand if their desire is to get a long message in 3 flicks or 2 flicks or whatever, or is it just how often they want to be able to change the message that is, not trying to get one pass to digest the entire thing.
I would say the majority of images have the entire message on one slide. With the marina specifically, they want to advertise products. And they want to advertise boat brands, docks, hoists, etc. Quicker than an hour time. The church wants to advertise specific events they're holding and the times and dates those occur. So I don't think the issue is going to be one message between multiple slides, because they're typically always on one.
Okay,
They're
and
typically on one.
and the reason that I ask that is my experience with these has more just been with living near one and how often it changes because it's a distraction, each time it changes, which is why I absolutely agree that 1 hour is way too much, but I would be comfortable in that 1 to even 2 minute range, just because just letting it have its time to dwell before all of a sudden it changes again. And that gets into style, the quick changes versus just the dissolve and whatever. But I think we're all discussing talking in somewhere above 30 and, within a minute or 2. So I'm amenable to that.
And for tonight's discussion, we don't have to nail that down. However, it would be helpful if tonight, at the end of our discussion, we can give staff some number that they can bring back to us at a future meeting with the zoning text amendment that would accomplish that. And I think what I'm hearing so far, there were a couple that were okay, 30 seconds to a minute to 2. So it seems like maybe a minute is kind of our central point, unless somebody feels that that's out of whack. And if, for example, we say, hey, we think it's a minute, and you come back to us in a month or 2 and it's a minute, and we think that, I don't know, maybe 45 seconds would be better, we can still do that. It's just, some concept of what they ought to be working toward.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
I have a question here for all of the other planning commission members and staff. I do recall the Wonderland Marina application for the special use permit to install the sign. And I recall their vendor talking to us quite extensively about the sign, the characteristics, etc. What unfortunately I can't recall is whether or not he made any suggestion as to the duration of the messages. And I'm asking anyone in this group if you do recall that being made.
What I recall, which is what I alluded to in kind of my introductory comments, was that the sign vendor said that he was well aware of our requirements, including that would have included the 1 hour. Now, most of what that issue was about, of course, was the size. And they ended up with a beautiful sign. We made some modifications. I don't know why it was written the way that it was before, but we made some modifications to where a reasonable sign would be okay for that location. But I do recall that he assured us that he knew what we required.
Thank you.
Now, I mean, if anybody has different memory of that, please speak up. But that's part of what surprised / disappointed me when I saw that the thing was flashing much more frequently. But it also helps me realize, really, you're gonna put a sign like that up and have it static for an hour? That would just be ridiculous. Anybody have any different thoughts on this? Do we kind of have a central tendency or something that a minute might be what we would want to change that to, and let staff word that, present it to us at a future meeting, and we'll probably tell you that, oh yeah, it's not really a minute, but that's something to work on for now.
Can I just,
Please.
my standard operating procedure at this point is to ask GPT, which I did. And they might be talking about a different kind of sign, like the kind of sign on the highway that says accident ahead. But they said basically 8 seconds is the ideal. But it also depends on the length of the message, speed of the car. And I would tell you, I have actually never seen an electric sign, even though I've driven on the roads mentioned and by the premises discussed. I've driven by them many times. I've never noticed the sign. So I have no really good thoughts on, like waiting for the time or the temp. So, yeah, but I don't know if there's other like sources where, depending on what type of message it is, because I would say a minute seems a little long to me, but that's just based on my ChatGPT reading. So it could be totally erroneous. I realize that.
What does ChatGPT say Fletcher ought to be getting paid? He's
Sure.
probably not getting paid what he's really worth.
Tell me.
No, I appreciate those comments. I kind of related to what Commissioner Hurd was saying, that I've been in exactly, well, probably the same original flashing sign in Chelsea, but I've been in exactly that kind of situation where I want to see what's coming, which to me would mean that something like 8 seconds is probably going to be too fast, because I'm going to want to see what's there at the end of 8 seconds, and maybe at the end of that 8 seconds, where if the thing is pretty static, I'm going to see whatever information it is and not alter my driving or not be focused off to the side of the road for too long a time. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but that kind of struck me that, oh yeah, that's exactly how I view that.
And I'm hoping by the next meeting, I can have some type of comment from the 4 sign owners that I'm aware of currently. I think their input would be vital for any decision made in this body. With the residents and business owners' point of view.
Anybody else have anything? And then question for you, does that kind of give you something to go on? You can.
I think it does, can provide maybe 2 options, couple options for you to ponder at the next available meeting.
Well, if it's like 6 or 7 seconds, that probably becomes a 4-hour meeting. But if you give us, 30 seconds and 2 minutes, that I think is probably something that we can easier figure out. All right. Now it's time to go to approval of the planning commission meeting minutes of July 22nd, 2025. Now we've got a little bit of an issue tonight. I had a number of minor things, but as we can see, Janice is not here. Chandra and I were talking a little bit before the meeting about how we want to handle that. I think this is probably the most complicated part of the recording secretary's catch up for this meeting. Everything else she'll be able to go through easily, but maybe one of us should take all of our comments, mark them up, and then we can, I don't know, either take a picture and email it to Janice or give it to staff. I guess Fletcher will see her at some point. So whatever you think the best way to do that would be, I'm just thinking that like shouting them out like we would normally do isn't best way tonight because she can't make those marks real time as we go through them. So maybe between 2 or 3 of us, and we can regroup after the meeting adjourns maybe and make sure that our copies sync and we can take care of getting all of that to Janice. Okay, anybody want to start off? If not, I
Yes.
can go ahead.
It's on page 63 of 73, the roll call vote under subparagraph B, roll call vote yes, the entire group, no, Birch and Hurd. For the life of me, I can't recall voting yes and no on the same vote.
Can I make a suggestion? I do have a number of comments. Do you think it'd be better to go through it like page order
We could do that. Yeah,
to make sure that
yep.
we, it might be, to my mind.
Yeah,
it's
if you'd
sort of
like.
Bouncing back and forth, but. Because I had not noticed Mr. Birch's comment, which is, now that you pointed out, it's needs to be fixed.
The first one I had was on page 57 of 73, 3 lines up from the bottom, I guess, or at least that paragraph. One addition since the last meeting, it says the addition of STRs. I think it's a typo that probably automatically capitalized. I'm guessing it should have said one addition since the last meeting is the addition of STRs. Anybody else have anything on that page?
Yes, on the first paragraph, instead of saying bed and breakfast, it says bread and breakfast.
Where is that at?
And the last sentence of the paragraph A, 6A.
No.
I'll be darned. Thank you.
It actually might be a better term for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, give them bread.
I like that.
Anything else on that page? All right, flipping the page, we're on 58 of 73. My first one is about 4 paragraphs down, I guess.
Are you talking Alan Selbert?
Yeah, Alan Selbert, down a couple sentences, he cautioned home buyers to do due diligence, and I think it probably should be, he cautioned home buyers to do DUE diligence.
I had a comment on the Amy Bennett discussion. Because based on, the meetings we've had, she has not owned it. And it says in the 4.5 years,
Yes,
she has owned it. She hasn't owned it for 4.5 years. She's owned it shorter.
yes. Yeah, and I did not know what was actually said during that conversation, but my guess is that it's referring to the 4.5 years that it maybe was a short-term rental.
Yeah, before she owned it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we could just have Janice, I guess, check the tape on that, check the
And also,
the electronic recording.
the last paragraph says the last sentence says she would like Dexter Township to adopt the Putnam Township ordinance. She wanted to adopt the Hamburg Township ordinance. not
Yeah,
that
thank
much.
you. I do not remember her saying that, but clearly what they paid their money and proposed was Hamburg.
Under Carol Fisher, it again says bread and breakfasts.
Wow, I did not catch any of those. Now, the one I did catch, the paragraph after that, the last sentence. He asked if his deed said the property was farmland, actual classification is lake residential. Could he rise chickens? And I assume it should be raised chickens. Anybody else have anything on that page? Okay, going to page 59 of 73. Oh, I had one which, I don't know, it's not a typo, I guess, but Madeline Bennett, 5185 Budding Drive. I'm not aware of a Budding Drive anywhere Dexter Township, or then I tried Google mapping it and I don't find one anywhere near us. So I don't know what was said.
I think that's the daughter of the Bennetts, so she might actually not live in Dexter Township.
That would make sense. That could be the Budding Drive that showed up 450 miles away or something like that. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, so that one, I think we just let go as is. I can't refute what it should have been. I just know we don't have one. I think I know we don't have one of those. Yeah, that's a
There-
good point. Thank you.
There is a 5185. Oh. Never mind. No, no budding that comes
Alright.
in the Google search.
The next one I had was a couple paragraphs down, Joe Spiegel, toward the bottom of that. He is advocating for the Putnam ordinance, which provides a system for people to engage in short-term rentals. And then next sentence, if they comply with the law, I think we remove that period and it should say engage in short-term rentals if they comply with the law, all in one sentence. And I did not catch the one that you were talking about, Christie, but later on, I did catch the one a couple paragraphs down that I was going to question about. Operated the short-term rental for 4.5 years,
Yeah,
but yeah, oddly enough, I didn't catch the first instance of that. But it occurs again. So we need to check that out.
Mr. Chair, on that same paragraph, we didn't suddenly start spelling Dexter in a French manner, Dextre.
Yeah, I thought maybe that added a little class to the whole thing. I
Oh.
wasn't sure if that was typo or not. And then later in that paragraph, people buy into residential neighborhoods not expecting a commercial business apostrophe S next to them. I think the context would be people buy into residential neighborhoods not expecting a commercial business next to them, and get rid of the apostrophe and the S. Anything else on that page? So page 60 of 73. I didn't have anything highlighted. Anybody else have anything?
I did not.
Nor did I have anything on the next page, 61 of 73. Anybody have anything on that?
Yes. The third paragraph from the bottom, the Chair Straub summarizes the motion.
Mhm.
That's Commissioner Barry,
Thank
not
you.
Barry.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything on that page? Page 62 of 73. I don't know, about halfway down in that big paragraph. I just like an apostrophe, planning commission discussion and can go to the board's August 12th public hearing. I just like board apostrophe S. And
I had
then,
a-
go
I had
ahead.
a comment on the sentence before that where
Mhm.
it says, maybe the correction action is to postpone action and regroup. I think that might just be correct action. Maybe the correct action as opposed to correction.
Good one, thank you. And way down the last sentence on that page, last line on that page. DPZ Ryer recommends sending an unfavorable motion to the board because there are so many changes and the planning commission needs to circle back and set a future agenda item to include standards for short-term rentals in just the ag district. And then using the Putnam ordinance for a template of standards, I think that also should be no period, and we just flow from standards for short-term rentals in just ag district using the Putnam ordinance for template of standards. If that makes sense to people.
I had one more in the big long paragraph.
Okay,
Where it says what requires an ordinance 45 if they aren't all the intricacies of the setbacks. It's supposed to, it says SF setbacks, SF the setbacks, I think it should just be L.
sorry, where is that in that? Oh, thank you. Yep. Okay. Anything else on that page?
Is that a
Page 63 of 73 of the packet.
long?
I had a couple on the line that starts with discussion under B. We could postpone it, but we know that the thing, it's written, I think it should be the thing as, and in that case, it's should be IT apostrophe S. So change the A to as and add an apostrophe on the it's IT apostrophe S. Oh, before we blast past it, Mr. Birch, where was your,
The
Your-
roll
your-
call vote just above item 8. And the roll call vote shows Ms. Hurd and I voting both yes and no.
and you don't want it both ways?
Not in this case. Ms. Hurd, I will defer to you.
No, it should be corrected.
So corrected in,
Yeah, which,
was it
Uh,
all yes?
trying to find my scribbles in
The-
that meeting
I should
packet.
be removed from yes, and so should
The
Birch.
Birch and Hurd are no's and not yeses on that one?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct from the Birch side of it.
All right, great, thank you. And underneath that, a couple of lines, approval of planning commission minutes. At the end of that first sentence, they all votes yes. I'm assuming it should be they all voted yes. Did anybody have anything else on that page? All right, the last page of the minutes, so 8 of 8 of the minutes, 64 of 73 of the packet. Under future agenda items. A, Chairperson Stroud noted the petition, but it should be needs with an S to be resolved. And then underneath that, there's just a typo in discussion on section 1906F, electronic message signs.
I just noted that, under paragraph 14 for Linda Selvert, it again is the French spelling of the Dexter Pinckney Road.
I'll be darned.
Thank you. I did not catch that one either. Anybody have anything else on the minutes? If,
Mr. Chair, move that the minutes be adopted as amended.
is there support?
I'll support.
Moved by Birch, support by Hurd. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Brings us to agenda item 10, correspondence. I would bring up, I guess, some of us, I don't know if all of us received correspondence from MTA concerning a planning retreat that will be in Frankenmuth, all-day affair Wednesday, October 29, and all-day Thursday, October 30. And if maybe we could ask trustee Abbott if she is so inclined to yeah, do your thing with the board like last time and see if the board wants to
I'll send the
provide
email.
funds for that.
Yeah, I'll send the email to Lonnie and to Sam, and I will courtesy copy you and Mr. Birch.
Thank you.
Commissioner Birch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other correspondence, we were provided by email and hard copies. Thank you very much. Is there any other correspondence that it would have had to have come in the last hour, I guess. The stuff was fresh that you gave us.
No additional correspondence.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any correspondence to report? All right, item 11, Township Board of Trustees update.
Oh.
Trustee Abbott, please.
Well, we did not have a regular Board of Trustee meeting this month. We did have a public hearing on the 12th. It was very good. We heard from a very large group of residents. We do have strategic planning tomorrow night here, as you can see on the wall. And we will have a Board of Trustee working session on September 8th. We will be working on a single hauler issue and the short-term rental before, so that when we have our meeting on the 16th of September, you know, it's in preparation of that meeting.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Trustee Abbott? All right, concerns of Planning Commission members, Director, of Planning and Zoning, Township Supervisor, Reporting Secretary. Let's start around the room. Megan?
I don't have any concerns. Or nothing to report.
Fletcher?
The DPZ reports in the packet. I'm not sure if you took a look. July was kind of a slow month for permits. It's uptick this month. We have 24 permits that have come in so far in August. So people must have been enjoying the lakes in July and not working on decks and pole barns and new houses.
Nice, thank you. Christie?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Dan?
Nothing.
Chandra?
I have none.
Steve?
I do have one comment again, expressing, my personal appreciation to Director of Planning and Zoning for the policy now of any internal or any correspondence that comes relevant to the Planning Commission between or after the packets are distributed, included in our email the day of the Planning Commission meeting, so at least we can familiarize ourselves with the topic. And again, in my mind, it makes life a lot easier. Thank you, Renner. That's all.
All right.
Would you just be able to touch on the City of Dexter master plan, and maybe kind of explain, maybe clear it up? I feel like it's clear as mud what we're could potentially deal with down the road.
Sure. And Megan can also touch on this if I miss anything.
Great.
But the city of Dexter distributed a draft master plan amendments to neighboring communities to review and provide feedback on. They changed language in regards to dealing with properties outside of their jurisdiction and used stronger language and how they would handle potential expansions of their borders or expansions of city services, and used words such as annexation and took out words about cooperative. Right, so
But-
oh, go ahead, Megan.
So I'm the planning consultant also for the city of Dexter. So I was at the city council meeting where they had approved it. When the planning commission made a recommendation and then the city council approved it. When the city council had been given the input from the surrounding jurisdictions, particularly Dexter Township and Scioto Township, they inserted a paragraph at the end of that section stating that they would like to work with other municipalities, of course, but it's the property owner who brings the petition to the city and that they have to act on it. And the phrase above that annexation is the preferred method is still there. But the paragraph in the approved plan below that, I would say softens it. And then if in terms of looking at the city and how it plans to expand, I would say they are not looking at this time at Dexter Township. There's a particular piece of property in Scioto Township, which the property owner has brought an annexation, has been talking to both Scioto Township and City of Dexter about annexing it, and the City of Dexter does need wells because they're almost at capacity for water. So, and this particular piece of property has some capability and they're exploring that. The other place in looking where the city might expand its borders is likely down Dexter Chelsea Road. But again, that's nearby to your borders, but it's not your borders.
Thank
I
you.
know there's a post-development down Baker Road with a Helping Hands.
That's in Scioto Township.
Yeah, and I thought that was Scioto trying to get the city to annex that? I couldn't remember what the facts of that.
The property that the property owner is trying to asking the city to annex is adjacent to that.
Okay,
And their issue has been sewer.
okay.
And so they initially tried a package plant and Eagle said no, because the effluent would have gone into the Mill Creek. And then, with that, then they looked to the city and it's an evolving conversation.
You sure anything else?
No, I was just curious about that. And since we didn't talk about it in the meeting at all.
Yeah,
I thought
the
that-
approved plan should be up on the city's website if you want to look at it.
Great.
And look at that last paragraph.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sean, anything?
Nothing.
And I have not really a concern, an announcement of the moment some of us have been waiting for. This is my last meeting as chair. When I gavel this meeting closed, I will resign as chair. And some of you may recall that I very reluctantly took this role on a few years ago. Mr. Birch was the chair when I was first appointed. And I followed his leadership. I happened to be vice chair at the time when the board made some different appointments right after they first took office. And as I said, very reluctantly, had been the chair for however many years that's been, and was looking forward to the date when maybe Steve would get back on the board, which happened, but then I was asked and had agreed to stick with it for a little bit longer to kind of maintain a little continuity for the short-term rental thing. And I declare at least that we're beyond that. We're beyond that sufficiently for this purpose. So next meeting, as vice chair, Steve will call the meeting to order, and then I assume probably ask for election for chair according to our bylaws, but all of that is up to him. I just like to express my appreciation for everybody, Megan, Fletcher, all of you who came before. You know, the past few years, we have gotten into some pretty big things. Certainly the master plan took a long time, a lot of public engagement. That was a big deal. And then we had some other things that were kind of big deals. We dealt with medical marijuana for a little while. The siting, I guess we'd call it, of renewable energy systems. That was a pretty big deal with some public engagement and some deadlines that we were trying to hit. More recently, obviously, short-term rental. But maybe more than anything else, you know, collectively, we cleaned up some issues with the zoning ordinance, but listened to people that had issues where maybe we didn't find logical basis for why they were having issues with the zoning ordinance. And we took some of those on and corrected them. And then proactively, for a while, some of us were meeting as the ordinance review committee to try to see what was hanging out there that maybe people hadn't had a problem with yet, but we anticipated that either they could have a problem or we just couldn't come up with, you know, what was the logical basis, or this section maybe conflicted with that section or seemed to. So anyhow, we've been pretty active over the past few years, and I really appreciate everybody's support. And I really appreciate Mr. Birch's willingness to be vice chair and then ascend to the throne such as it is. And I look forward to taking a place up at one of the ends of the table after this. With that, I would ask for public comment, but we have no public.
Mr. Chair?
Sir.
Since I just discovered that I'm potentially looking at a new role, I would very respectfully ask our DPZ, Mr. Rayner, to make an item 4A on our next agenda. That item being the election of a chair.
And I guess we'll need an election of a vice chair too then, huh? Because vice
Well,
chair will be vacated.
Not necessarily, because I won't necessarily be elected chair. I can think of several other people that might be
Okay,
interested
point is well taken. And I don't want to horn into whatever your future agenda items are, so I should have just shut the heck up. shouldn't I?
Thank you.
Anybody have any other future agenda items? All right, if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn would be appreciated.
Move to adjourn.
Or,
Moved by Smith, support by Abbott. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All those opposed, no. Motion carried, meeting's adjourned.
Hour and 4 minutes.
Wow. Like I mean.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Although I don't know, it's good we really didn't have much to do tonight and we stretched it out to an hour and 4 minutes maybe.
Well,
I think that is correct. Who's hitting the kill button?